Ahoy ahoy to all you smooth sailors out there, and welcome aboard the DeckTales Podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sammy Catlin, and this is the show where we set sail into the captivating world of ship life. Most of the time, delving into the best and worst experiences of the incredible crew members who called the open sea their workplace, but I'm open to the odd exception as well. Whether we're navigating stunning destinations to weathering unexpected storms, our guests all have stories to tell that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even shed an unexpected tear. So if you're a seasoned cruiser eagerly awaiting your next embarkation, or just curious as to what goes on at sea, DeckTales is your boarding pass to a world of nautical narratives. My guest today is Mr. Sean Rowland, a young man who used to work on ships for almost exactly 3 years, and his job was unknown to many as he operated mostly in the shadows. Sean declared very quickly in this recording that he quite possibly had the best job on board within the broadcasting team, and you'll soon find out why. So let's anchor up and dive right in. Hello, Sean.
Hello.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Thanks for getting in touch. Lovely to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Been listening to a few of your podcasts. I figured I might just send you an email, see what's up.
So you're based over in Vancouver and you've been in the industry. I don't know much about your story, Sean, so please enlighten me with the basics first. You are in the IT sector.
Kind of. Well, no. So my position title was ITV manager, but that's an acronym that would confuse people, I think, because it stood for interactive television manager. You know, the name tag might say different things at times, but either way, my job was very confusing to people in that no one knew what I did at all. And also, I didn't do a lot at times, so I had a great combo. Well, as the story might go on, I might claim to have the best job ever on ships, and we'll see if the receipts bear out on that.
So ITV manager, but there's some wiggle room as to what that actually entailed. How long did you do it for?
So I started in 2008 to 2013. So I did a six months contracts. Plus I did one 1 month fill-in contract at the start of my last kind of year.
Okay.
Or last full contract, I guess. So basically 3 years on ships, basically.
3 years. Okay, cool. And did you...
3 full years, like living on the ship over 5 years.
Right. Yes. Of course, you have to... Well, that's it. I mean, you've done my math for me. I always just say 4 years because it was over a 4 year period, but it was never actually full 4 years. Four
right.
years.
It's like, usually I would say it that way too. And then when I thought back, I'm like, geez, I lived literally 3 years of my life on that ship, you know, when I finished when I was 30. So like 10% of my life I lived on essentially the same ship. It was the same class of ship over and over.
You sound like a man who likes his statistics to be well-rounded figures.
A little bit sometimes.
But so you did it in the late 20s, early 30s. That was the kind of portion of your life where you did it. And
right.
Why did you stop?
Well, eventually I guess they figured out my job was too good. And it kind of got amalgamated away. But when I guess it was maybe time. It was kind of in the back of my head a little more and more as things went on. But I would have done one more contract if I got. There was a British Isles, Iceland, Norway crew contract that I think would have lined up well for my vacation afterward, but it wasn't to be, I guess.
Wasn't to be. So can you say who you worked for?
Yes, so I work for Celebrity Cruises. I put my little shirt on here.
You do.
But it's the starring crew there. That's the in the last year, and that was their little crew appreciation week. Among the, you get a shirt, and there was a whole bunch of things they do. But Celebrity Cruises from the start, they were owned by Royal Caribbean, at least at that time. And I worked on the Millennium class ships, which were built around 2000 to 2004, the same kind of 4 class of ships. And I started on the Millennium first, kind of. It's funny. The way I started, I guess, was I had a friend who worked in youth staff and for Royal, and did that for a summer and told me about it, and at least put it in my head. I'm like, okay, that's a place I could apply. And I looked at the time, and then my job wasn't on there, and there was like some. But that's what she did. But she told me like, hey, here's where I applied, and lots of jobs on there. And so I looked, and I was looking for something. Didn't know what I was looking for, but something that technical, right? Because that's what I did. But who knows what jobs exist sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I looked, and there's some like theater stuff. I'm like, well, that's not me. And fast forward to a year later, all of a sudden I'm losing my job. And sort of in the last couple of weeks, I remember reading a big newspaper article about people that went on world cruises and all the places they went. And just like, I was huge, many pages. I just read it like front to back and started thinking again, like if I find some job on the ships that, is good, and that's me going on those world cruises. And I looked again, and there was the ITV manager. And I could sort of read through what the job description was. There was some stuff. And I'm like, oh, I don't have that or that or that, but I'm pretty sure this is me. And I applied, and it's the start of the summer, and now I got no job. But I just sort of kicked it for the summer. And kind of near the end of the summer, they just did a general interview because the ship's sailing out of Vancouver for the Alaska season. So someone was doing a bunch of interviews, and they came to interview me amongst other things. And anyways, they talked to me pretty briefly about, okay, you did this, okay, and okay, when can you start? I guess I need 2 weeks. They seemed fine with that, although I didn't know it at the time. The person I was replacing his wife was having a baby, and he was like, I gotta go, guys. I gotta go. I'm leaving, bye. Yeah. So when I got there, he wasn't even there anymore.
They couldn't wait 2 weeks, but they said that they would.
Well, I don't know if he had already, but that was the thing. He's telling him, I gotta go. So I went to a different ship to train with someone else on that ship, and then they flew me to the other one. Right. So I flew to Costa Rica and to San Jose, which is kind of in the middle, and then they bussed me over. But I remember landing, and it's like nighttime in San Jose in Costa Rica, and they'd flown me there, and it was good. And then I get there, I'm like, oh, I know where I'm supposed to go. It's written down somewhere in my notes, but maybe I hope there's like a guy with my name on it or something, because I didn't really. And I'm walking along, there's like a big like glass wall before you go out the elevator or out the airport. Right. And you can see all the people out there. And, it's my night. No. Okay, well, I'll just walk outside. Walk out, door shut. And then now I'm getting mobbed by taxi drivers. I'm like, that's a bad idea. And I look, and there's like one guy still over by the window. I didn't see him. And I just push past. I got these giant bags, push past all these other people. And I go, hey, you. Or he turns around and looks at me, and he's, yep, that's my name. Let's go. And off we go. He didn't speak any English. And I got in his van, but took me to the hotel. And the next day there was a shuttle with a couple other crew members, and we went on to the Millennium, and I trained there for a few days. Remember the second day on the ship, we went through the Panama Canal. So we're doing fairly ship things right off the bat, I guess. Yeah, that's a big it's a very ceremonial thing, isn't it? To go through the Panama Canal. It's one of those things. Exactly. Yeah. And it's the only time the captain didn't open the front helipad to the guests. It was just open for the crew. Oh, wow. So I went out there. I'm like, oh, there's no one in the way. I'm just going to take some great pictures right at the very front here. And, it was fun. And then a couple of days later, I flew out of Cartagena, Colombia, and they were going to fly me to my ship. And so I joined my ship in Hawaii. I was going to be on the Celebrity Millennium. You had a great start to the cruising life. Jeez. So as I go through my first contract, it's going to get better and better. I think every couple of weeks I found out something better about my job or the things we were doing. And so basically we joined in Hawaii, and I remember the activity manager picked me up, and my position, it wasn't there anymore. So he took me to the office and says, okay, this is the office. Here's your phone. Good luck. And he turned and walked away. And now I'm all by myself. We're going to be at sea for many days coming up. And, essentially I had to just figure it out. And so I worked in the broadcast center. So I'll elaborate on my job a bit now that I'm finally on the ship. But who are you under? I'm curious. Who was the direct? Right. So it's interesting. Yes. So I'm in the entertainment department. Right. We're the broadcast department within that. There's me, the broadcast manager, the broadcast assistant. They're kind of separate to me, but, we're in the same office. And me and the broadcast manager report to the cruise director. Of course. And I'm like a manager in name only. Like I manage these computers that run this system that I'll describe. But, the cruise director once told me, like, I don't know what you do. I don't want to know. As long as I don't hear anything, I'll assume it's good. I'm like, yep, that's perfect. Love it. Sounds like most cruise directors I know. Right. They're so busy. Like I once, you don't want to bug them for anything, especially on a sea day or something, right? So, there's a lot going on for the entertainment department on a sea day, especially. 100%. And so my thing was the interactive television system, especially. So I'm working, this is from 2000 to like when I start, but now with technology, it sounds so fancy, of course, right? But the ship was built in 2000. Right, okay. But these interactive screens were, so 2008, the ship was built 2000. Right. These screens so the system is kind of funny. Well, it's not that. So what it is you're in the cabin, you're a guest. You press menu on your remote control, and it brings up the little screen that says, hey, here's your account. Here's how much you spent so far. Here's the shore excursions. If you want to watch a video of that, you can order room service, pre-plan your breakfast. You can order it right now. You can do pay-per-view movies, which is kind of the main thing I would control because the movies would come in and out. And if you remember when you would go on airplanes and they would have like movies that just came out of the theaters and you go, oh, that's interesting. That's this time where like it would be a novelty to see those movies and it's like worth getting them for $10 or whatever. But that was the main thing I did. It's like it was just this little system, and the guests would use it. But the upshot of it is nobody has to go to guest relations, wait in line just to see their bill. They can see it all there. Same with shore excursion. You don't have to go, what's this tour that says you go to such and such village. Or you can watch the video where it shows you going to such and such village.
Right. All the information for them to make their own choices and to view their own account is all there in their cabin on their TV. They just need to know.
It just takes a little work off all the other departments.
Right.
Yeah, and I think when you turn on the TV, it says, "Hey, press menu. This will come up," and most people would at least check their bill, and I think people love that. And essentially, as long as you kept on the little details, things ran itself. Like, I think my little joke at times was, on a good day, I can count the number of minutes I work on one hand.
Oh, really?
Like, not kidding. And maybe only a little kidding sometimes. Like, because I'll count.
Oh, okay, so what's a bad day?
Well, on a bad day, maybe 2 hands. Like,
Sean, get off. I'd speak to people.
Yeah, and so people are going to hate me. People are going to. I'm sure people hated me. Oh yeah. Oh yes. And as I said, like as time would go along, I'd learn, hey, this is a new perk I had. I learned, oh, look at all this free time I have. Well, this is great in my first few weeks. And our first port that we happened to hit was Tahiti, and then Moorea, and then Bora Bora. So that was my first, week on ships. And I remember looking out the window in Moorea one day. I actually did some work that day. I'm like, I'm going to go to this cabin. It says it's not working. Went there. I'm like, things are working fine. What am I even doing here? Look out the windows, beautiful beach. I'm like, okay, well, off the ship right here. Yeah. Went swimming, and the next day, I'm like, this is great, loving this. No one said anything, right? No one's asking me where I'm going. And the next day we were in Bora Bora, and there was a crew tour they had booked on, swimming with sharks and stingrays. And, it's like not even 2 weeks in and on the ship, and I'm on this tour with all these cool people, and we're swimming in this amazing water, and it was just perfect. And it was literally my best day of my life up to that point, it seems like.
Question.
And
sorry to interrupt. At any point in your story, is there any jeopardy or anywhere where like there's an inciting incident?
For other people, perhaps there's some. Oh yes.
I just want to know that I'm getting into something at some point. That it's not all just smooth sailing for you, Sean.
No, well,
10 minutes a day at maximum, and you go on all the tours pretty much for free, right?
That's right. And because the first person that ever called me was the shore excursion manager, and he needed all the videos loaded because no one had been there, and he wanted people to see the videos for all these tours. And I said, yeah, I'll figure it out. And it was fine. But from then on, like I kind of learned, hey, like, and they had a pretty formalized process, but like they'd send you on any tour you wanted.
Because you obviously,
I don't know how it was on other ships, but they would put out a big binder full of all the tours. I've got the time to do it. Most people don't have 10 hours to go into Rome. But yeah, I can go. I'm all over that.
You became the tour excursion manager.
I was the tour escort guy. Don't have anyone left behind is the goal, right? Our last cruise that contract for me coming up the last couple of weeks, I hear, there's some problems with the ship. And then and we're like missing a port here or there, or something like that, or short timing it, and comes out, one of the 2 generators is broken and they can't really fix it. And the next cruise after this one is going back across the Pacific, so they really do want 2 of them. And so they canceled the next cruise, and we dumped all the guests and went from Auckland to Sydney, no guests for 2 nights. One of the nights was St. Patrick's Day, and we had a crazy party, like all crew party in the guest lounge. And then we docked for 2 weeks in Sydney Harbor in the naval base.
Considering this was so long ago, these fabulous times are well ingrained in your memory, Sean.
Yeah, for sure. But also, I have that blog there. Like it's on there. So much
you're reading off of it. You've got a
no. I mean, it's in there. It's in there. Like I'm not even looking at it right now, but it's there. And if it's a great memory trigger, I'm very happy I did that.
Of course. So did you get the generators fixed? How did you? Well,
they did. Yeah. Well, what was funny is like to the entertainment department, they had a meeting. They said, "Don't walk around saying you're on vacation because everyone else makes tips, and they're making nothing right now, right?"
Yeah.
But they also said like, "Hey, if you want to like take a time off or whatever, they're out of dry dock this day, come back whenever, right? But you're not paid." And I'm like, well, I'm already my last 2 weeks anyways. My replacement had already shown up because they usually do a handover for whatever reason. We didn't really need it. But,
your handover was literally like, here's the office and good luck.
No, because like we would have a 2 week like I remember we did a whole Atlanta crossing once where we played video games in the staff bar. It's crazy.
That was the handover. Who could beat you at Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so they're like, yeah, if you want to go do something, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go fly to the Great Barrier Reef then, and did that for a few days. Came back just as the ship was out of dry dock, and so that's kind of how that first contract went, I suppose. And
wow, what an introduction to the industry! You basically didn't have anything that disrupted or upset the apple cart.
Well, I mean, I remember the
point.
very first crew party we had, I got a written warning. So it was kind of maybe like, oh, this is interesting, but not my fault. And we all got out of a bunch of entertainment staff. But they had it in the provisions deck.
An indoor affair.
Yeah, and it was like just to be somewhere different, I guess. But like when 2 o'clock hits, they kicked everyone out. But like my roommate had ordered like a 6-pack of beer, and we were going to walk to, I guess, our room. And I'd gone just before. I'm like, oh shit, door key's broken. And so now we're wandering around trying to figure it out. And kind of the rope deck right behind us was just a place where people go to smoke. So we're just hanging out there, and security rolls in and gets mad at everyone hanging out there and says we're not allowed to smoke there and all these sort of things. And literally there was one of those hotel ashtrays that were like a giant thing of sand by the elevators. There's like one of those full of like cigarette butts, and like our cabin was there. People were going in and out of there smoking all the time.
Well, in your cabin?
But, we got written up for that. No, because the rope deck's right by our cabin, was like right before the door. And, we got written up for that and all these beers and this and that. And whatever, it doesn't matter. And I just signed it. I didn't care. And then I hear, oh, wait, we're not doing this? And cruise director says, yeah, well, this is bullshit. We'll just go talk to the staff captain. And, we're all in there, and he says, whatever. And I'm pretty sure I said, like, I didn't even buy those beers. He's like, you can check my card. And I didn't realize it was my roommate that had bought them. But in the end, we did not get in trouble. So,
but so you were written up initially for having bought beers or smoking?
Well, you're not allowed. You're supposed to have them just in the bar, right? So technically, I guess we should have gone straight to the bar and have them. It was kind of a weird situation, but at the time, you're not allowed to take your drinks out of the staff or crew bar, and so they didn't want like crew parties, I guess, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I think that was always the way. I'm pretty sure.
Well, it was for sure up until and I heard it had been different at some point.
I'm sure,
but then one day, some hero in some captain's meeting, I think on a different ship, said to the captain, hey, you want us to feel like this is our home. And, I have people over to my home. I can offer them a drink. And, when I have people to my cabin, I can't do that. And maybe it'd be nice if I could just have a few drinks in there. And the captain goes, yeah, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden we were allowed drinks in our cabins, the whole fleet.
All of a sudden. I mean, people always had drinks in their cabins.
Yes, it was never sneak, but now
it was just never from the crew bar. It was usually something that you'd brought ashore, and you'd have like mixes, and it was more of that kind of thing. They said you only allowed one bottle of spirit in your cabin, and one person had a bottle of whiskey about
right, the one for the shop that's on a little lever.
The one, the Nebuchadnezzar of whiskeys or something.
Yeah, well, I remember a crew party the shop manager was holding, and I got in there and barely got in the door, shut it, but he had the little cloth bags just stuffed like a big cube of all the bottles that the shop sold that I'm sure were breakage. And made it way down to his cabin. And I did get out of that party just before the security came, but I remember 2 people didn't get caught. One hid under the covers of the bed and somehow got away with that way.
What?
And the other hid behind the shower curtain. There were literally like, at least over a dozen people in that cabin, and they somehow got away.
That is ridiculous.
The oldest trick in the book, right?
There's nowhere you could really hide in a cabin, and if you really didn't bother to care or check and look properly, then of course you're not going to find anyone hiding behind the shower curtain or under the bloody bed covers. But wow, you said under the bed covers, not under the bed.
Yeah, I think maybe the top bunk under the covers would be my guess.
Oh wow, fair play.
I made it out of there in time. I didn't find out on that one.
Yeah. So you had a pretty easy ride your first contract. Did anything get shaken up on the second?
Season 2 Euro trip. We were in Europe for the second contract. But the main thing I did a lot was the tour escorting, and I'll say closest I ever did come to losing a guest was on this island in Delos. And when I say losing, we're walking along kind of an old ruins. It's kind of like the Oracle Delphi type island where there'd be an oracle back there back in the day.
Yes.
And it's an excavation thing now. And we're walking along. I'm at the back. That's all you got to do. And I hear some commotion. I look up, and we're walking through kind of like like an old villa or whatever was there, right? So you'd have all these sort of marble blocks that would be the frames of the doorways.
Right.
And I hear some noise, and I look up, and this lady is falling, and one of those marble blocks is falling on her back. Like it is tipping over, and it looks like she's going to get crushed to death.
Yeah.
Like they're not small. They're,
big enough to do that.
Hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And I'm at the back. There's like a couple people in front of me. So it's basically like I'm the only person seeing it. And she sort of tips forward, and the thing tips over on its side and hits the other end and did crack a decent bit. Like it chipped pretty good and broke. And she fell forward and did not get squished barely. and it kind of tipped back instead of rolled onto her.
It sandwiched itself in place.
You're right. And especially at the time, I don't even know if I told the shore excursion manager exactly what happened. We were all kind of stunned. Literally, it was 45 minutes to Mykonos from that island on a very little like bouncy boat. And then who knows what kind of hospital they have there. Like if she was injured to any extent, even just getting the thing off of her arm or leg or whatever. And also what's funny about that island, it's supposed to be sacred. Like no one's supposed to die or be born on that island or whatever. So I could have been responsible for one of the only deaths on the sacred island of Delos.
Well, I mean, the chances of somebody being born there are very remote, but somebody getting hit by a block or something, and that's going to happen at some point. To suggest no one should die there or be born there, what would be the punishment for someone who did? If you're born, what are they going to do? Execute you? If you die,
right.
What are they going to do?
Well,
execute you?
I mean, back in the day, they didn't mess around with that stuff sometimes. If you were supposed to be keeping a temple sacred, maybe they would not be pleased if you didn't.
So you didn't get in trouble? It was not your fault that this person nearly died?
No, and we went to talk to like it was like a French excavation there. So there was someone in some office, and we sort of told him what happened, and he did not seem too concerned. And maybe we weren't getting across exactly how close it was to him. But, looking back at that picture, I would say it was not cemented in or however it was supposed to be held there as well as we thought it was. And, it was kind of propped up on these like other bricks rather than being right on the ground. So it was already kind of like tippy, I would have guessed.
It was like watching a giant Jenga kind of slowly tipping out.
Yeah. And I can still see that just, in my head, I can see it's halfway and her tipping forward.
I bet that is something you will never, ever forget. Damn. And out of the, if you had to give me a round number of excursions you've done in your 3 years you spent on ships, could you give me a number? Like how many?
I think so. Close to 100, probably.
Wow. Your vlog is
there.
Quite extensive, because you've...
Yeah, there's 300 posts on the vlog, and there's got to be, maybe it's close to 200 then. I'd say but maybe sometimes it's just where you go out and do something, but...
That's an astronomical amount of tools.
It was nuts. And like, especially when we get somewhere early on, and I get it from other people, but I did not want my memory of Port X to be, I went to some bar and got drunk. And I did go to some bar and get drunk, but the first time I would go to a port, I would make sure I would do something. I think, I did collect magnets, and I had one from one of the Caribbean ports, I think Antigua, and it says same shit, different island. And it was just the island. It took me the longest to ever finally do something there for whatever reason. And
wow.
It's a fine island. There's nothing wrong with it. But
there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. Mm.
We were once in Israel, and I really wanted on that Dead Sea tour. And the first week we got there, kind of a funny story, but first week we got there, I was not put on that tour. And I looked in the early evening, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm not on this tour? I was first on the line on that book. And I went to talk to them, and they're like, the people in the spa manager really wants to go. And okay, I get it. They're like, next week you're on it. I'm like, okay, fine. Later in that evening, we're coming along, and we're about to be docking in the port of Jerusalem, which is the Shad. And you can see, like on the map, all of a sudden we take a veer hard left. That's weird. And I go up to the broadcast center and I go, hey guys, what's the deal with the map there? And they go, oh, Captain's about to make an announcement. Oh, okay. And basically there's a little back and forth between Gaza and the port, or, Israel essentially. And some rockets were landing in the port.
Damn.
We go, I guess we'll be docking in Haifa, which is up north. And we docked there and had we were going to overnight once there and once in the other spot, I think. So, kind of still worked out, except now that Dead Sea tour, Jerusalem tour, they're like, there's an extra 3 hours of bus time on there or something.
So you were like, I'll pass.
Yeah, well, and, I still went on the Jerusalem tour, long day, but fine. Yeah, and happy I did. And then next week, we were back there, and I did go on the Dead Sea tour. So,
what is the Dead Sea tour? So is that you just like scrub yourself in the?
So the Dead Sea, when you see them just floating like that.
Yeah.
There's that, and then there's a nearby like hilltop. Used to be a Roman villa, and it was kind of like the last stand of the Israelites, I guess, when Rome took over. They were kind of set up there, and were like fortified. They were like sieged for years, and the Romans built this like ramp just straight up like it's a cliff, like one of those sheer cliffs like this, and they built this ramp just like that, like right up to the top over the years and years and years, and then finally got up to the top. We're assaulting it, and then everyone just committed suicide inside. But you can still see the ramp, you can still see the Roman camps, and such a cool spot, amazing, and like you can see all forever in all directions, and the Dead Sea, and
the Dead Sea
one of my favorite tours.
Yeah, so you float
and just there to float, nothing crazy, but just to float in it, and
Yeah, you float because the salt is so high, right? The salt content, it makes you float. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So you've been off the ships since 2013?
Right, yes. Early 13 was my last, when they ended, contract ended.
And how have you filled the void from like all of a sudden doing all of these excursions
Yeah,
to
unfortunately
then
not as
coming back to
exciting.
reality?
It's tough now. Like, I feel
Do you just reach out to loads of podcast hosts and tell your story to relive the adventure again and again and again?
Yeah, well, I guess I did do that other one, but you're the second, so I gotta start combing through them.
Yeah, well, it's in your mind forever. But you've got the pictures and the stories, you've got the memories, and you're happy to share them with other people. Because yeah, it's nice of you to do that, I suppose. Because it's nice to know that there are some job roles at sea that have existed where people can take full advantage of.
It's weird, and I know, like, so they like because you sometimes hear guest entertainers or singers or dancers, and they had extremely good jobs in a very similar way, except
Yeah,
for one main thing.
they work hard.
They got to do well, they do, but like we had a a cappella quartet. It literally in their contract it said 15 minutes a night they can sing because of like protecting their voices or whatever. So they had a good gig, but all of
Yeah.
them had to do the worst thing of on all ships, dealing with the guests.
Oh, and you didn't have to do any of that.
Well, if I, went on tours and when I'm
That
going into
was it.
cabins,
Yeah,
maybe they're there and that's fine. But if I really needed to not see people, you could hide out and not see them, no problem.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, your job had
some
basically nothing to do with them in a sense of you're very much behind the scenes making sure that their interactive TVs worked at all times. And that was basically it, right?
right. It's one of those things. If you do things right, no one will know you've done anything at all. Just keep things
Perfect.
all good, and then no one bugs you, right? No one asks, who are you and what are you doing?" I'll tell a tragic story of a friend at the end of that contract. Not super tragic, but ended
Okay.
his career, unfortunately. Our very last port crossing for the Atlantic. And my first two contracts, I had a roommate. For the first half, it was the broadcast assistant. So, we shared the same office. Brian, great guys, my first really good friend on ships, and showed me all the ins and outs of when to order beer at the crew bar and stuff like that. And anyways, my position kind of had its own cabin, kind of, but it was kind of back and forth at the time, so I had to sort of fight for it. And those first two contracts, I ended up sharing with him 4 times, and then kind of got my own cabin. But at the end of that contract, we were in Canary Islands, so just about to cross the Atlantic, and he says goodbye to his girlfriend who was signing off, and bit of a teary goodbye for him or whatever. Came back and security gave him a bit of a rough time. Why are your eyes so red? And right? And thinking he was on drugs or something, right?
He's just been crying.
Yeah, and he was, that kind of set him off. So he's drinking and drinking and drinking, and didn't want to come for dinner. And something we would always do was we would go to the staff mess because you could order off the main dining menu. Something I only learned a few months in. One day I asked him, "Why'd you eat in the staff mess? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I ordered off the menu." The what? And I learned you could do that. And, we used to always do that. But yeah, and so anyways, he was just drinking. He pissed off the wrong person in the staff bar. He wasn't hurting anyone, but I think he was just got in a fight about turning the TV up too loud. And I think someone went and told security, and all of a sudden he was breathalyzed and in trouble. And I tried to call the cruise director or someone, and they couldn't get him anywhere to save him. It was too late. And all of a sudden you're fired, but where's the next stop? 6 days across the ocean. You're and he was confined to cabin for the whole duration, and can't see him, can't help him. It's just a bad night, and that's how that went down in the end. But
Anyway, so, a ship life can't hold
it
it
is,
all.
and that's one of those things I learned very much. You see it at other times, but you're always just on the razor's edge of being fired. The absurd line of like you're not allowed to be over 0.08 on your they'll breathalyze you at any time is just the out to fire you at any time, right? Like everyone's over that, like all the time, basically, right?
No, yeah, but it was actively very difficult. I mean, my job was to socialize with guests, so I would have to drink with guests all the time. But I never got called it because I never abused it. I would, I'd burn off the alcohol that I drank by dancing all the time.
Right.
I danced. I used to dance a lot, Sean. What happened? I don't go out dancing ever because I think of it as a job. Come on, let's get you on the dance floor. Were there any romances of your own that went awry or that didn't go to plan?
It's funny. I guess I had my own cabin most of the time, and just let things come as they would, I suppose, right? Yeah, I wasn't. I felt like, you hear about the craziness, but I feel like on our ship, and generally, people would be like, okay, I'm with you for now. When they sign off, see how that goes. But it was, certainly as they say about, guests, like there was no, I'm not talking to guests, so that's not happening normally. But also the joke I remember for that is 2 back-to-back Panama Canal cruises. The hotel director sent an email saying, hey, good news, everyone. Our average guest age is down 2 years from the last one. We're down to 75. So, that's who the guests are.
Yeah. But with relationships and stuff, it's not like they would like come to your cabin and be like, why are you never at work, Sean? You're always not working. Get a job.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, you want like some people didn't really know, and some people kind of knew because, like, some people. Oh, what do you do? I'm like computer stuff.
You guarded secret, like, oh yeah, right? Just you talk about it like, oh, here's the ins and outs, and you bore them to death with it, and then they lose interest, and you go, I got out of telling them I do nothing.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
It's like a magician, with like the power of distraction. You wave something with this hand, and then you kind of avoid telling them
little
the truth.
Sleight of hand here. Exactly. Oh, look at this, and I'm in the crew bar. I would try and do, and it was like too much at times, but then when we would get there, I'd try and do like one for every port. Say if we were in Europe or whatever, I was like, well, just see the main stuff. So it's like, I'm going to do the Rome tour, crack out the main stuff there, and Pompeii and down the line. And so I do try and get them done that first few cruises. Like, all right, done it, seen it. Now I can do whatever I want. And then I would, I remember reading once, and it was like, I haven't done a tour in months. And my reason was it was like freaking middle of summer and it's too hot. And, it's one of the benefits of being crew for anybody is like, if it's raining that week, well, you will be back next week. So you don't have to do anything. And if you are working that day, well, you're going to be back next week. You get another chance most of the time, right? A guest on a world cruise, you got one shot at one place, right? And you're just moving so fast. There's almost no time to enjoy some of these places. Well,
that's why some companies, they offer like a cruise and stay package for the guests, because they fill their holidays so much with the cruise and the activities and the excursions. But by the end of it, they're exhausted. So they go and stay, they literally just lounge by the pool in a hotel for a week, and then they go home.
Right.
But you don't need to do that because you worked, your vacation was your work.
Very much so. You come home for vacation and putter around for a few months and then off to the next one. And
you must have been exhausted when your contract had come to an end.
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel like everyone felt it, but right around 3 months, we did 6-month contracts, and I always felt it around 3 months that, I've been here so long and I have so long to go. And
they call that the mid-contract blues.
For sure. And, it doesn't matter how good your job was, I guess. Everyone, I still found a reason to complain. Everyone did. I wasn't complaining to everyone else, but you know how it is. And one contract, all of a sudden, they said, hey, here's a new thing coming, and ITV manager and broadcast have to do spotlights for the shows. What? I don't know anything about that. Why are they asking me to do this? He was all pissed off in the staff bar one day, and we had to do it. And in the end, it was kind of fun. Now I look back and I'm happy I did that, right? But at the time, I'm like, why did they ask me to do this? And it's like, the only time I have to actually do work is in the evenings when, if the stuff's broken in the cabins, I go when they're getting cleaned so you can get in there and fix stuff. But now I got to do the show right in the middle of the time when I would want to do stuff. And,
No, so
how it went. Yeah.
What about scariest moments? Obviously, you told us about the woman with the slab of marble nearly killing her. But you personally, did you ever have any scrapes?
A couple. I remember once, on my last contract, my cabin was a single cabin, but not in the best location. It was deck -1 forward, very front of the ship, water line kind of above my head up here.
Yeah.
And no big deal most of the time, except I think my last cruise leaving Alaska, we went into Hubbard Glacier very early in the morning. And, those glaciers, they're dropping pieces of ice into the water.
I was just thinking that.
And, they make their way along, but there's some little pieces that bump along here, and no big deal. Well, it's no big deal when they're up there and you're looking at it, but when they're literally inches from the side of your head bumping against you, and it's the first thing it hits. I'm at the front of the ship.
Yeah.
You're
the icebreaker.
Yeah, and we were going in there early, 6 a.m, or who knows what, but I was asleep for a few seconds until we started hitting those. And I realized, well, let's get the hell out of here. Let's go up to the office because I can't hear that.
Do you think that
no.
whoever was in charge of allocating people their rooms, they were like, just stick Sean in there. He doesn't work anyway. He doesn't need sleep.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, the production cast was down there too for whatever reason. It wasn't, I don't know how we ended up down there in that specific ship, but because it's the front of the ship, it's well located for them or something. But
so you were right at the front, but you would that -1 was, so you had the bow thrusters as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think like the bow thrusters would be kind of just a little more forward, kind of underneath like the stage area, like front of the stage area was where they were. But still, you get that too. And not the best cabin. I had I had this one, that one I talked about with the porthole. It was a great cabin. You could have this window and it seemed so fancy. Oh, man, there was a galley right above and sounded like they would just throw pans onto the floor from like 10 feet up at 3 a.m. sometimes. And there was a few weeks where that was happening until a chef moved next door or something. And well, that stopped pretty quickly. He went up there and yelled at him or something.
Because he was like...
Because he was in the department.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, where's the best place to go? Like, I guess middle, bottom...
Middle forward was best for me, I guess. I had a few of those because it was a short commute to my office, which was deck 3 forward.
Well, everywhere's a short commute, Sean. You're on the ship.
Well, I know. But when you're the back of the ship, it was, a couple extra minutes, I think.
Whether it's a minute or a couple of minutes, it's all pretty...
Yeah, although, I mean, those really big ships right now, those big ships, front to back, you forget something and you got to go back to your cabin. That could be a tough one.
The biggest one.
I remember...
What was the biggest ship you did?
So they're all the Millennium class. So they're all essentially the same size, like a kind of Panamax size, like 91,000 tons is what they were. But kind of that size they were stuck at for a while before they really started getting big.
When they went mega.
Right.
So were there any incidents that you remember happening that led to a change in policy? Like, I don't know.
When I mentioned about the guy drinking, I suppose, or drinking in the cabins, that was the big one. So it did come maybe kind of in the middle of my 6 contracts. So then they started being allowed to drink. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
With that, the inclusion of alcohol being allowed into people's cabins comes the potential for people stockpiling alcohol in their cabins. Did you ever see anything like that? Organized crime at sea, mafia and all that.
Definitely so. Like, the Filipino mafia, as they say, is if you need anything, they'll help you out, was the joke. And certainly during that second contract, we used the room service guy all the time. Me and Brian just like come back from the crew bar. It's like, okay, well, definitely club sandwich and fries, or burger and fries or whatever, and you'd phone him up and he'd be there in a few minutes, pull it out of his pocket like that and give him $10 or whatever for whatever you got, and you're so happy at that time. And we were burning cash through that, but it was absolutely worth it. And if you ever needed anything, I remember sometimes during poker games these guys come in with a whole ceviche they made, and where the fish came from no one ever asked. But,
what? You just having fish?
Ceviche is like the little Well, yeah, and it's like that's the thing. You cook it. It's not cooked, right? It's just chopped fish and like citrus juice that cooks it essentially, right? So they're just chopping it up. Who knows where that came from? But it's not on the menu anywhere.
Oh, but so your cabin steward was getting some good tips out of you.
For sure, yeah. It's amazing how you have the cabin steward, and they're just as good as the ones that the guests have. Like, you go to your room, you turn around, and you're like, my room's all clean. I just literally left it. Where is he hiding?
Yeah.
And we had a great one that did get promoted, and he actually was a cabin steward for my parents a few years later on a different ship. I remembered the name or something.
Or your parents calling him up and asking them for a sandwich and a burger at 3 a.m. as well. And you must be Sean's parents.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think they're pretty hands off. They go on a lot of cruises, but they will get an all-inclusive package, and they never even need to have any drinks practically.
Mm-hmm. Your cabin steward was making a couple extra bob on the side because you were giving him extra jobs to do. But what about yourself? I mean, obviously you went and did all these excursions, but you weren't being paid to do it. But you had all this extra time. Did you ever find a time to find like another side hustle or another gig, or were you earning enough money that you didn't need to do that? Okay.
Well, it's like I'm not making good money when I brag about my job. It is what it is, and it was fine, and I didn't, no big deal. But also, I was friends with the art auctioneers quite often, just through walking down the hallway, and you just talk to people, and hanging out, talking with them. I'm not looking to do anything. And they said, oh, yeah, we do this and this. And they never sold anything. I felt bad for them. Old days, I think they did sell stuff, but not.
Yeah, no,
on our ship.
it
Never sold
depends.
anything.
Like, I think on the fun cruises, they made quite a lot. Like the party cruises, I feel
That's what
like
you-
they
yeah, you used
sold
to hear
quite a lot
that.
because they were drinking
But-
so much. They were like, yeah, I'll buy this out.
Right. And yeah, it was sort of the thing. And during the auctions, they would have like an extra couple helpers, people to move the paintings around. And then one other guy was just to help them along with prices that they need to sort of be starting auctions at, stuff like that, and doing the paperwork if they actually sold anything.
Right.
And I think usually they'd use like someone in the production cast for that, right? But I don't know, just because I was friends and they roped me in and I think they gave me a few bucks. I never even asked for money, but occasionally, here's $50. Okay, fine, whatever. Right. They're not making money. I'm not going to bug them. They're literally not selling anything, right? If they were selling big money, I'd get on them, but just for fun and, they're friends and whatever, right? And I did that for a little while, and you'd see another auctioneer would come in. We're going to fix the ship up. No, you sold nothing. Same thing, right? But one day the new auctioneer came in and decided, hey, let's have a cabin party. And they brought a bunch of their paintings down for their cabin just to make it fun, right? And it's a fun little thing. And they had all the stuff there. And at the end of the night, I thought, oh, this will be funny. I'll just take the most expensive painting out and do an animated walk out the door with it, right? And walked out the door. Peter Max was their most expensive stuff back then. I think it was close to 10 grand for a little painting, like a couple feet by a couple feet. Walked out the door, looked around, haha. It didn't stop me. Okay, well, whatever. I'll just put it in my cabin. Haha. Stuck it in my cabin on the top bunk where I put all my dirty laundry. It didn't bug me the next day. And I eventually called me, hey, I got that painting. Oh, no, we know. If we ever need it, we'll come get it. Okay. And it sat there for months, this very expensive painting of theirs. And I think once they asked to have it just to use, and then it didn't come back. They didn't actually need it in the end. And, I could have stolen that for the thing. I could have stolen it. They would have never asked. And I did give it back.
Well, art is very subjective in that its value can be fake, or I mean, take the flipping banana duct tape to a wall scenario.
For sure.
$5 million.
I went to the Modern Art Museum in Paris once, the Pompidou. And if you ever want to see the most cliche, like modern art stuff there, you can see the blank canvas on the wall. You can see dirty laundry hanging on the wall. And, I love that museum. It's the best street performer I ever saw in front of that guy was just some guy with no shirt on that would just harangue the guests coming by, or the people walking by, to make him sit down. And he was so good. And just like little jokes, and just he had a fake club and would like sneak up behind people. And once everyone started watching, you just got sucked in. And still remember that street performer. Crazy shirtless guy, I call him.
Are you sure he wasn't just a local random crazy shirtless person?
He could have been. Well, he did swallow a sword and a few other basic things. Actually, he saw me there that show a few times because I was transfixed, and he pulled me up to do help him do the nail, sitting on the bed of nails.
Ah.
And they were sharp. The main thing I was on the ship, maybe my nickname would be like the movie guy, in that the way the pay-per-view movies came to us for the guests was they came on VHS tapes back then still, which was even then like, should have been on DVDs at that point. I thought of how archaic this is, but all the crew rooms had VHS players for the most part too. They would be built into the old CRT TVs. That was the kind of thing they had then. So I had that kind of hot commodity of brand new movies I could lend out to people. And, you usually get 6 copies of a movie, but you're only using, say, 3 of them for the guest pay-per-view. And all of a sudden, like, hey, here's a movie or whatever. You can get the favors that way of whoever really wanted them, this or that, as long as you got them back. And, as I said, this is back when the internet's so expensive and people aren't really downloading stuff like that. And, like, to have any form of entertainment was so big, right? And to have something new. So, I kind of like that. And that was kind of the ITV guy's role, I suppose, in a way.
But you were nicknamed the movie guy amongst your peers, your colleagues.
I think so. In the sense of if you watch something, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. Movie guy or the tour guy, that's what I was. Right?
Well, yeah, it's just movies. It's not like you're the guy who can get it for you, like Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption. It's just movies. So let me go back in time a little bit. You said why you started, but you basically got asked to go on almost immediately, 2 weeks from the time they offered you the job. Didn't you have to do any training?
Not beforehand, which is interesting. I hear you asked that a few times, and like I did the training on that ship. Like I went to the other ship to train specific for the role, but you did a lot of training the first few weeks of like I remember there's a big long 4-part course they did of like safety of like, even going through like here's a type of fire extinguishers and all, like this
Yeah.
for this and this and like all those little things and
But
like but
nothing in
nothing like
like
where you're
a
jumping in the water sort of
nothing
thing.
like that. Okay. It's weird that there's this double standard, or I don't even know how you describe it, but like not everyone needs to do it. Or, some people do and some people don't. I don't get it because everyone I've pretty much
Yeah.
worked with had gone and done it somewhere in some capacity before they jumped on board.
Yeah. Well, and it's like not like the entertainment people aren't like we had, boat drill duties. Like I was checking people in at the theater and stuff. So presumably I'm expected to be able to know certain things, right? But I wasn't operating I'm sure the guys that operate the lifeboat,
Mm.
they're doing some sort of more training,
So
obviously. But
what was the extent of your responsibilities during a passenger drill, emergency evacuation?
yeah, it was it's one of the hardest things I had to do the whole week sometimes. But it's like you go there and
Smug
I'd stand at the
bastard.
front of the theater and at
Hold a
times
paddle.
yeah, when it was, I felt like it got a little more stringent at certain times based on, other world events. But I remember we had the passenger manifest and I would try and check off names as people came in. But, I've got a piece of paper printout and this is how it's going to be in an emergency. Like I'm going to cross-reference this against the other guy in the other theater inference. So I've got 10 pages here of stuff, right? And I guess this back now they have RFID tags, I hope, on everything. It should be easier, but
Yeah.
you did what you did, and back then the guests had to wear the life jacket, everything, right?
Yes.
Less
Which they
now,
don't
but
do now.
no,
They've
and it
completely
sounds
stopped
way
doing
better
it.
now. Yeah, which is good. I think as long as people can sort of get an idea of where you need to go, but
Yeah. It's like
they
they
always
never
say,
have they ever made like, for example, to draw a comparison, whenever you take in a flight, you're never asked to put on your life jacket and to make sure you know how to do all the things.
right, no, exactly. And every
It can't
time
be
they would
trusted.
demonstrate, your life jacket has a light and a whistle, and I
Yeah.
would always say under my breath, "Don't blow the whistle." And then you would hear all the guests going, "Grrr." I'm like, "We're
So
not playing that whistle."
you were encouraging
No,
it.
no. I'm saying don't like that it's a theater full of guests, and when the people on the stage are demonstrating this life jacket, you just know they're going to start blowing in that whistle there on the life jacket they're all wearing. But I guarantee you, no one is sanitizing that whistle ever, ever. The cabins get cleaned well, but no one ever sanitized that whistle. I guarantee you.
Yeah, that's it. If you're
Yes,
going to be in the
absolutely.
water, give it a good rinse out with the seawater, and then you
Yeah,
can blow
seawater will clean it out.
it. Did you ever have any emergency situations where you needed to be called into action?
Not too much. I think I'll say I was one of the last people to see the Costa Concordia before it sank because I saw it in Malta sailing in.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being on a tour, taking pictures. Oh, look at that great ship sailing in and against like the backdrop of the city. And then a couple of days later, I'm looking at my picture and go, well, that's that ship as we're watching it sink. And we're in Europe. And I remember being in the staff mess and then, everyone's sort of side-eyeing each other. Like, you look at the other officers there and be like, well, you guys better do something because pretty sure in that situation, it was the cruise director that stepped up.
Mm. Well, he
So,
isn't it Captain Schettino? I forget his full name. He's trying to get out of prison early or something.
I'm sure.
Wasn't that in the
Yeah.
papers recently? Actually, he's done a bunch of time since then.
I guess it has been quite a few years, but
2012, yeah. It's been 13 years.
a lot of people went down on that one, unfortunately, and it's
36 people, I think, lost their lives, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my
sucks.
head.
No, I don't even know because it happened, but we're still on the ship, and it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to look into this too much while I'm on the ship, right? Like, I remember one of the most funny things. I wouldn't go to the production shows often, but during the Atlantic crossing, once I went. And they would just unironically play the Titanic song and show the sunken Titanic right there. We're in the middle of the Atlantic. What are you guys doing? No,
Sure.
they love it. It's in the production show. We're doing it, and the crowd loves it.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess. Well, and no joke, the very first thing on the very first day when I was training on that other ship, finally, at the end of training, got to my cabin, sat down for a minute, just flicked on the TV to see what was on, and no joke, Titanic was playing.
Of course.
I'm like, I'm just my first day on the ship, and you're showing me Titanic?
That was your training.
Yeah. Here's what you do. Don't hit the propeller when you fall off. The first time we were in dry dock in Australia, I remember we were walking back to the ship and we were a couple minutes from it, just sort of passing along the waterfront. And my friend Brian stops, turns around and goes, Tony Hawk? And the guy just picks his head up, about to get in the taxi and goes, yeah. And it's Tony Hawk, the pro skateboarder.
In dry dock.
And he was staying in the hotel right next to where our ship was docked in a kind of a fancy hotel that's like a long pier on the water. And we stopped and he talked to us and we asked him, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Oh, there's a skateboard event in the city." And my friend asked for a picture and he did it. And I said, "Well, I want a picture too, please." And I did my classic pose at the time, which was you put your arm around him and they point at him like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just point at him so you know which one the celebrity is.
Would have been awesome if I'm just doing a couple, spots on the cruise ship while it's in dry dock,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And
well,
my last contract,
they empty the water obviously underneath it, so they turn it into like a bowl, and he's
right. It'd be perfect for him. Oh, get some good footage from that.
That'd be awesome. That'd be a good level on the game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, dry dock boat. That could work. I love it with a cruise ship around. Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, well, it works.
There's a Mario Kart. If you ever play Mario Kart, they have a level that's on a cruise ship.
They have in video games used the cruise ship setting for a number of things. One being Mario Kart, as you just said. I mean, there has to have been a Tony Hawk's cruise ship level. I'm sure there has.
There might be. Yeah.
Side note. For those of you who are interested, there is a Tony Hawk's cruise ship level, and it came out in 2001 on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. I just checked it out and I remember it very vividly now. And one of the missions is where you have to grind this rail that releases a propeller that then flies off to the side of the ship and then propels a guest out into the sea. Fun. End of side note. There was one on Call of Duty, which was like killing Nazi zombies on a cruise ship. I remember that quite vividly. I don't know why there were Nazi zombies on a cruise.
Right. Yeah, maybe the Lusitania or something. Yeah, don't ask.
Haven't really delved into the lore behind that one. But you never encountered any zombie Nazis on ships over the years?
Well, not that I saw. Some old-looking people that you couldn't... No. But I think that's one thing you learn on ships is a lot of people dragging an oxygen tank or something, and a lot of the crew would look at each other and go, well, it's a good thing we're doing this at our age and not at that age. And,
this is the time for some people to do it before they kick the bucket.
They're doing it, and I loved it. Like, people were out there, and they'd have, they'd go for it. Right? It was great, but also, I felt so lucky to be able to see things where I could just pump out the tours and not be like, oh, I can't do anything today.
Why? Because someone's just kicked the bucket.
Well, yeah, definitely happens. I remember talking to the doctor that had just signed on, and where I'm at the staff bar, and he's got his name tag. Oh, he's the doctor. I heard there was a star code today. How'd that go? He goes, they passed away. Oh, welcome aboard.
What, his first day, and someone straight away passed up?
Yeah, it was the first thing for him.
Well, they deal with it every day in a
I guess
hospital.
So, yeah.
And when you've got thousands of guests on board, it's not like everyone...
It's probably less than the hospital work, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But did you see any or hear of any other deaths, or how?
Well, so an interesting one. My very last cruise ever. We were about a couple hours out of Hong Kong, and it was Christmas Eve, I think. It's pitch black. It's close to midnight, and we used to keep the front of the ship camera on in the broadcast center, just something to see. And look up, and there's what the heck is that? There's a big light. Shit, there's a helicopter in front of us. And they dropped a guy off in the helipad, and we went up to the top deck and started, my buddy at the time really liked taking pictures, so anytime it was something, I'll go out there, and broadcast manager anyway, so it's his job, I guess. But we were up there filming, and eventually they took the guy out through the crew bar, and he had a heart attack or something, but was still kicking. And it's like the Chinese military or something had come out there and airlifted him 6 hours out. We're way out there. And I remember a guest next to me says, "Wow, have you ever seen this before?" I go, "It's my first time ever." And I've seen a helilift once in Alaska where there's helipads right next to the ship anyway, so they use that. But yeah, they plucked him straight out of the middle of the ocean in the pitch black, and that's the first day of the cruise.
First day, huh?
First or last day. First or last day was when it would happen, always.
You don't know if that person made it or not?
Never did here, no. I'm not sure. But we didn't turn the ship around or nothing, so... The funny one, I had a request. The phone rang one day, and it says "Master." That's the captain.
Yeah.
And answer that. And he says, "Oh, I was in trouble with my TV, and I need you to come up here and fix it." Okay, yes, Captain. And I don't know what he could possibly want, right? And guests and crew cabins are sort of not the same. But I went up there, and he says, "Well, on the other ships, I can see the guest channels." And okay. And basically what he's saying is that when the guests are using the interactive system, they get put on a channel no one's seeing to let them do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're watching a movie, they're on that channel doing it. But you could monitor it in my office. You can monitor all those channels. And he's like, oh, I want to see those. I'm like, oh, and I try to test him. Like, oh, it does work for that. And I'm like, okay. And it was set up similar to my office, basically, where you could monitor it.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I'll turn them on. Why not? And then at the end, he sort of asked me, and it's like, oh, and on the other ship, they have this channel where the movies are always playing. And what he's asking me is, on the other ship, there's adult movies. And on our ship, there are adult movies, but they're not always playing. There's just a bunch of them. You got to play them. The other one, it was just...
Well, otherwise, kids could just access them.
Well, you still have to pay for it. But what it is that if you pay for it on the other ship, you just get put on the looping video. And so he was saying, oh, there's this one on the other ship. And I did, my buddy had told me, oh, the other ship's like this. And I'm like, oh, well, it doesn't work that way here. But if they do get played, you can see them. And I didn't really go into detail, but he wanted those videos to be on his TV.
You became the porn dealer for the captain, essentially.
Well, yeah, I turned him on, and he was happy. And
you what? You turned him on? Oh, I thought.
No, well, yeah, he was well happy. No, but I gave him I turned on the channels for him, and if you had an eagle eye, you could probably catch some guests. They would order those movies too, and if he was on the right channel at the right time, you would get to watch it too, I guess. One of the funny things I got to do was my job was when a guest said, well, I didn't order this movie. Oh, yeah. I could click on and go, really? Well, I see the title and I see the time you clicked it and I see the time you stopped watching it. And
you lasted a whole 3 minutes, you dog.
Yeah, and 2 minutes was my cutoff, unfortunately. 2 minutes and under, you could have the refund. But yeah, no, that was one of my delights is seeing those emails from guest relations. Because it's not coming to me. They go complain to guest relations about anything. Hey, my interactive system's not working. Hey, I don't like this charge for this movie. And then they'd email you or call you and you could look and go, well, I'm not refunding that one. Or
computer says nice. No. It's like, I don't like this steak. Well, then why did you eat it all? It's like, well, it's too late now. You watched this whole movie and you complain it wasn't a very good movie. No, you watched it all. You're paying for a movie.
I literally had one, they emailed and they said, oh, they ordered this movie and they felt it was too hardcore and they would like a refund. Or they asked for advice. Are there any others you could watch? And I go, I don't know, maybe this one. I'm like, okay, I guess. And they're like, well, they want a refund. I'm like, well, they can order a different one. If they do that, I'll refund the last one.
So do you have to go through and know all the porn titles and be like, oh, okay.
There was just like 6 or 10 of them. They never changed. Those never changed. So I didn't have to do anything with them.
You didn't have to like change up or like write a disclaimer warning. This is extreme.
No, I mean, it's funny because it says, oh, the title won't appear in the charge on the bill, right? So it's either going to show as, hey, you watched Adam Sandler and Happy Gilmore, or you watched movie. So
movie.
Yeah, and if I should have maybe been a little more. Sometimes you'd be nice about it, and sometimes I should have been nicer maybe. But if the wife is complaining about this charge, probably should just refund it, and they'll be happier than not. And then they probably wouldn't book us at this in the future. But that wasn't my job, right? And sometimes I'd say, hey, like guest relations, you can refund it too if you want, right? Like you have that power, and it just comes out of your account. It's not like it was my money, but it was just one of those things you felt like, got to draw a line somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Fair enough, mate. So what are you doing these days?
Nothing too exciting. Like I was the internet guy. Like I would go, if you were getting internet in your house, I was the guy that come connect it. And I did that for many years. And now I'm a fiber optic splicer. So I'm kind of the guy that makes the cell networks work, I guess. We're like splicing those and, somewhat involved, but it's similar. It's just you're on your own doing your stuff. And it's not so exciting as the old days, unfortunately, but similar to what I was doing before.
So would you not go back to it if you could?
If my old job was offered to me in the same way, of course I would.
Yeah, in a heartbeat, I guess.
Right, and kind of as in when it ended, it was like, well, they said, if you want to do any other position, like happy to have you, you're great, but look,
there is work.
There's nowhere
involved.
To go. Right, there's nowhere to go but down. Just like there was no.
I guess.
And you just taint the memory of it. Like unfortunately, right, like you could hang on for years and years, and maybe I'd be a broadcast manager, which would have been pretty good. But I don't know. At some point, I feel like I was going to do it while I was still seeing new things, and kind of as that came to a close, like it was already in my head a bit. Like I would think about it sometimes, just walking the hallways of, what am I going to do at home? And maybe this, something's going to have to happen eventually. And so, and that last contract was very funny. I got during my vacation, I got a call, and it was head office, and it was Friday or something. They're like, oh, so and so's got to go home, and can you do a fill-in for a month on this ship, and let us know really quick. Okay. And I looked at where the ship was, and it was in the Baltic in Norway. I go, yeah, I'll do that, of course. And it's just 1 month. And I emailed back and said, yeah, that sounds great. Supposed to sign on in June Juneau on whatever day, just push it back a few more days when I land, so I'll have at least a few days at home again. And the ship was going to be in Vancouver, so I just signed right on at home.
Yeah, awesome.
And they're like, and then I heard nothing on Saturday, nothing on Sunday. I'm like, oh man, they forgot about me. Whatever. And I was living wherever I was, not at my parents' place, but I think my phone number was there. So they called on Monday morning, and then my parents called me, or they were given my number, but it was like, okay, Sean, just pack your bags, get to the airport as fast as you can, and we'll have a flight for you. I go, what? Okay. And I packed and I thought they forgot about me, and as fast as I could to the airport. And there was a flight through to Amsterdam and then to Norway, some place I'd never heard of in Norway. Where was it?
Stavanger.
Yeah, with the big rock that goes out onto the fjord.
Yeah.
And I was flown in there, and same thing. Like I land, get to this airport finally, and I look around, and there's just some guy standing there. He's not holding a name. I'm like, look at him. You here for Sean? Yeah. All right, let's go. Off we went. It's like an hour in Norway on a taxi. I bet you that's expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I got there, and we did a Norway cruise 2 weeks up. And what was funny is 2 times I just missed going to either the Arctic Circle or the Antarctic. Just the cruise right before that, they had gone up to the island at the very top. And anyways, I got on the Norway one, and my third contract, they asked me to go on the ship at this time, and it was going to the Antarctic, and I had to say no because my city was hosting the Winter Olympics at that time.
Oh, so you had a better offer.
Well, no, I mean, but I had bought a bunch of tickets to it, and I just my city's never going to do this again.
Yeah.
And, and it turned out it was one of the best things their city ever did. It was perfect weather for 2 straight weeks. We won the gold medal in hockey in overtime against the U.S. Our hometown goalie, the guy that played for our team, came in and made this huge save, to play for the last few games for us, and made a huge save just before our whiz kid new guy came and scored the winning goal. And it's one of the best moments of our city. And I'll get to Antarctica one day.
Well, yeah, it's always going to be there. But the Olympics only come around your neighborhood every so often. I moved to London the end of 2012, so I missed all the Olympics. But hey,
just missed it.
In one of my other lives in the future, maybe I'll get a chance to see them again. Who knows? But so with this one, you came good.
Yeah, but yeah, that last contract I did a Norway, and then I did a Baltic cruise, and I was training a new guy. Was kind of the main thing. Like a new guy was coming to train. That's why they really needed someone. And so I did that, and then back and onto the other ship that I literally just walked right onto. Right, like didn't have to take a flight to join a ship, which is somewhat unique for crew in that way.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, and then that last cruise or that last contract was kind of the world cruise I had sort of thought about or read about in that very start of the thinking about going on ships, because we went from Alaska once through the Panama Canal and back. And then we did across the Pacific, Hawaii, Fiji, New Zealand, Australia, Indonesia, Bali, Komodo Island. We did Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Hong Kong.
That is some list. I can drop your link on your episode if you fancy sharing your stories with people. But we've got a couple minutes left. Literally, the time has flown by this evening with you, Sean. Yeah. Was there any other stories really quickly you wanted to get off your chest?
Okay, I'm going to blast through a few. I remember on that last contract, going last time through the Panama Canal, we were delayed for so long. It's a deal. We're just sitting here. And my friend, she knew some of the people in the deckhands or whatever. And they told her the canal door shut on our ship, and it put a hole in the ship.
Oh my God.
We were sat there, and they were welding a fix. It was above the waterline, presumably. But they said they could see through it. They could see the water through the hole.
Wow. They literally sandwiched shut you inside the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
That was
the last lock or something. And we were going across the Pacific in a few days.
Yeah.
So, better get that patched up. And but we made it all the way across. So, and on that same Pacific crossing, it was really interesting. All these people came on in Hawaii, and they were eclipse watchers. So all they would do is go travel wherever the eclipse was going to be. And this time the eclipse was across the South Pacific, and it was hitting essentially no land except like the tip of Australia and like the tip of South America. And so we sailed a ship into the middle of nowhere, and we were like the only people in the world to see that eclipse off our ship.
Oh, how amazing.
And it was crazy. And, I know it happened a few years recently in North America, but yeah, just to be right on the line there and just to see it, and it was just crazy.
A memory for life that you're never going to forget, and pictures can't do those things justice.
No, and like my camera was amazing at the time. Not the same, of course.
Not the same. No, exactly.
Tell another story about a friend getting fired with his family on board. He was in a string quartet, and he was one of those people that was hired through and he
would play when the ship was. He would play when the ship was going down.
Yeah, pretty much. But he had did like a whatever they do recital as graduation thing. He made a compilation of like all these video game medleys.
Mm.
So like Super Mario and Zelda and Final Fantasy and just like tons of stuff. He had a book of stuff, and it put that on the internet, and that's how he got found. Like this recruiter's like, hey, like your stuff, you want to work on cruise ships? And he goes, yeah, spam, ignore. And I think they emailed him again, and all of a sudden he's on ships and he's put together a little quartet, and they were great. They were so cool. They had all this different stuff, and you could just go there and request any old song. And near the end of this, and he loved ships. And he was having so much fun. He was like me, ordering off the menu, and man, he could just eat two giant entrees like it was nothing. He wasn't a big guy, and he's planning for weeks and weeks. In Alaska, his family's going to come on, and they look talking to all the tour people directly, so he can get a cheap deal for them to do all these things. And he's going to have his parents, his brothers, his sister, his girlfriends coming on, and it was like summer. It was Canada Day was one of the days, and it's going well. And I never really organized stuff, but that one time I organized the Canada Day party because it was the first Canada Day after those Olympics. Okay. So I had a bunch of footage from that, and I was going to play that. And for whatever reason, there was a goalie net in the crew bar, and we had some like old hockey sticks and stuff. So we just set up like a little, it was a great party. Loved it.
Sweet.
Yeah, so great that he thinks, well, I'm just going to bring my family to the crew bar and show them this, right? And his girlfriend was in there, and his sister and his brothers, and somebody saw us. You're a girl, and I don't recognize you. The security did or whatever, right? Assuming they're guests, which they were, and then they found out, oh, you're this guest. And then the next thing he knew, the next day, bandmaster says, "Yeah, come up with me." And in the elevator says, "I don't think you're going to make it through this." He goes, "What?" And it was a master's hearing, and he was fired for that, like essentially right away, like, and they kicked him off the ship with his family.
Just for taking him to the cruise?
No, I mean at the end of the cruise, but that he was fired, and like there was a couple of days late. No, that was the day. It was like because of Canada Day, and then the next day was the end of the ship anyway. So like I think there was one sea day, and he got fired just for that. I mean, and they said, oh, because they had brought them in, they looked for footage, and they were in the staff bar one day just having a quiet beer, literally nothing, right? But they were cruising in crew area, like they're not cruising in his cabin or whatever, right? Not even his girlfriend is. So it's not like they're
guests by every letter of the law.
Right.
They really had no right to be there, but he took them anyway.
And oh man, I felt so bad, and like it was partly my fault. Like I organized the party, not that I told him to bring him there, but I think kind of all of us maybe should have like said, "Don't bring him here." And I didn't really notice, but I was talking to his sister at one point, like in there. I didn't clue in what's going on enough because I'm whatever. And yeah, and like I was like, "Please, I'll just stay in my cabin." He's like, "I'm only a month left in his contract," and no, he was gone. And in the next year, he was back at college anyways, and I don't think his girlfriend wanted him to do another contract anyways, but tough way to get fired with your family there.
Yeah, definitely.
And then he asked, hey, I got this spring break, and I know like I had a friend come cruise with me once, and because I had just the cabin sometimes has an extra bed or whatever, right? Like, and they can cruise really cheap, and I'm like, yeah, I'll put in a request, why not, right? And I felt like I owed him something, and so we came to cruise for a few weeks, and then halfway through the cruise, I'm doing spotlights, and I get a call, and it's head security. What's going on? And answer, he goes, "Oh, you cruising with so and so on the ship?" Yeah. And I go, "Okay, well, can you come to my office right now?" And I go, "Well, I'm in the middle of spotlights." And he goes, "Okay, once the show's done, come to my office." Okay, and bring your friend. Okay, and we go there, and he says, "Someone saw you in the hallways." Another crew member. It was like the chief, like the person that has money for the crew, like the timesheets and stuff. He says, "Oh, she says she saw you and says they used to work on the ships and you were fired." And he goes, "Yeah, that's true." And he goes, well, what happened? And asked him what the deal was, right? And he explained, I brought them people in, and then I was fired for it. He goes, head security goes, "That's it?" Just like and just laughed at like that was all. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay." And he talked to him a bit, and he's like, "Well, this person saw you, and they were the person that was processing you being fired, so they recognized you, and I guess technically he wasn't supposed to come on as a guest in that way." And they asked me, "You just filled out the form?" "Yeah, I filled out the form." They said, "Fine." And they go, "Okay, well." And if you had a little bit back and forth, "Okay, you can stay. Just don't go in any crew areas for the rest of the cruise if you can." And he's like, "He's staying at my cabin, but to stay out of the staff bar is it right?"
Right.
And his name's Chad. And he goes, "Oh, I'm just nothing but bad luck." Poor Chad is nothing but bad luck. But even cruising as a guest, he gets in trouble.
Wow. Yeah, there's very little tolerance for any shenanigans, and some people they get fired for less, and some people get away with murder. If you want to hear a sad story about how yours truly gets fired in 2010.
Yeah, you didn't have your shirt tucked in or something, I heard.
Oh, yeah, you did hear that, yeah.
I was sort of, yeah, it was right at the end of, oh, crazy. And it said everyone's, I mean, that one is insane. Like, but it is like, it is that. It's like, if your boss doesn't like you,
yeah,
they could get rid of you, right? I remember we had basically there was a problem on another ship and there was a small fire that happened because of one of the power supplies failing. So they sort of told us, this happened, clean up the area that, make sure the air vents are clear and stuff like that. And we were in the process of doing that and basically found all these boxes and stuff. We were just piling them in the middle of our broadcast center. And then the same thing happened to us. And then there's this fire. And it's not a small fire. It's just like the thing burns out. But when electronic parts burn out, it smells really bad. Like a whole thing's burning. And so the whole hall smelled bad. And people are coming around. Security's looking around. And I had to tell my boss, like, hey, this thing broke. Same thing. And he's like, I told you to fix it. I'm like, fixing it. We were doing it. But when they came in to look at what's going on, we've got all this cardboard piled up on the floor that we're throwing out. But we cleared it, the areas that were the danger areas, but now we look like idiots with garbage on the floor. We're like, no, we were cleaning it. And so we could have easily gotten in big trouble there. But the cruise director's like, no, this is what was happening. It's not like that. But my boss was really mad at me. He's like, I told you to do that. And I'm like, we were doing it. And like, I can't know. And my cruise director really stood up for me because apparently he really wanted to get me in trouble. And I don't think my boss in head office liked me. But he's like French, and sometimes you can't sell it. Just like that, maybe. But yeah, that happened. And same thing, like that you get a cruise director that maybe doesn't like you, decide, well, screw this guy. He doesn't work anyways. Get rid of him, right? But, if you're a nice guy and you're helping out where you can, and fine, right? And it's fine. And
fine. Just fine. If you're taking advantage of the job, in a sense, then you're not going to make any fast friends. You're going to be
exactly. It's like, they asked me to do spotlights. I know another ITV guy said, no, I'm afraid of heights or made up something, right? But no, just fine. Okay, if that's what we're doing, I'm doing it. No, I'm not going to be the person to complain. I absolutely saw what my job was, and I'm not going to ever try and do it, and maybe I almost got too lax in the end about being, not that I don't think it was directly my fault, but coming into the end of my last contract, there was a conference call, and I'm like, I'm going to be in the cruise director's office for this. That doesn't sound good. And it was basically that on the older ships, because they had built 5 newer ships in that time, the newer ships, the same position of mine, did 100 times more work. Like, you got a legitimate job, because just for movies, all of a sudden now the movie can be, because it's all of a sudden on hard drives. So now you can have a movie in 6-7 languages, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to program the movie through a hard drive, and you essentially did it in real time. So to do one movie would take you all day. You'd have to do it 8 times in real time, like through the computer or whatever. And then now it's really, like you said about the signs, every single thing had signs with, hey, this show in the whatever bar. And that was their job, to make all the graphics for it. Yeah. So they did the ITV manager turned into a job, but on the old ships, they didn't have that stuff. So they're like, well, we don't need this anymore. And, obviously what was bound to happen eventually did happen. And the bit of work there was pushed off into the other departments.
It was a nice ride while it lasted.
Absolutely. And it was funny, in that last few weeks, the new cruise director said, oh, all the entertainment managers should be in these morning meetings we're going to do. And why would you ever need me in there anyways? I'm like, well, you just fired me, so I guess I don't need to be there. And I went on a tour every single port, and that we were in Southeast Asia at that time. And it was the last sort of hurrah, I guess, of a tour every day.
Well, keep your nose, what's the word, to the grindstone of like the jobs boards. Maybe there'll become a position available again. You never know. You could retrain.
Yeah, unicorn job needed.
Exactly. I wish you all the best, Sean. I really do.
Yeah, you as well. And I really appreciate coming on and talking. You letting me talk for so long. And
that's fun. Yeah, I look forward to editing this one.
Yeah, I know. I think the other guys said the same thing about me.
Onwards and upwards, slowly and surely, Sean. We'll get there eventually. Yeah, but
exactly, for sure.
Been a pleasure talking to you. My stomach is rumbling something fierce. Ever since we mentioned pizza, it's been like, are you getting it or what?
Right. It's pizza time for sure.
It's 9:30. I've got a bunch of other admin to do as well, so I'm going to order that, I think, and then I'm going to get on it. But all the best to you, Sean. Thank you so much.
You as well. I really appreciate that. And yeah.
Thanks very much, man. All the best to you.
Thank you. You as well.
Take care.
So there you have it. That wraps it up for this episode of DeckTales. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've been entertained by the tales of laughter, camaraderie and the occasional stormy sea, then don't forget to subscribe, rate and leave a review. Your feedback helps us to navigate the podcasting waters and continue bringing you these fascinating stories. Before I sign off, if you'd like to share your own stories for future episodes, then I'd love to hear from you. Simply get in touch over the socials, because after all, the best stories often come from our listeners.
As we navigate through the waters of life, remember to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, as well as those you choose to share the adventure with. I've been your captain, Sammy Catlin. Until next time, fair winds, smooth sailing, and may your adventures be as unforgettable as those shared here on DeckTales. Bon voyage!